This is Community Radio Networks. It's Monday, the 15th of April. It's tax day today. Let's get you that and lot more information that you need to take on the day today. Let's get this week started. Welcome to Community Radio Networks. We will start with the world news coming up for you. This is Community Radio Networks, the world news read by Shabnam Madgil. The Middle East has been plunged deeper into uncharted waters after Iran launched dozens of missiles and drones from its territory towards Israel in an unprecedented 5-hour strike. The vast majority of the missiles were intercepted outside Israel's territory by aerial defense systems. There have been no reports of injuries suffered directly through Iranian strikes. And until this Saturday, Iran had avoided any direct confrontation with Israel and had been fighting a war of attrition with its army of proxies. But with Operation True Promise, Iran has crossed a Rubicon. In a significant escalation of tensions in the Middle East, Iran launched a barrage of over 300 missiles and drones towards Israel, citing a suspected Israeli airstrike on its embassy in Israel on the 1st of this month that claimed the lives of top commanders of the Revolutionary Guard. Iran launched this estimated 300 missiles and armed drones at Israel in this first direct strike against Israel from Iranian territory. Israel, the UK, the US and France intercepted 99% of the projectiles, with the Jordan intercepting missiles over its airspace. 5 projectiles landed within Israel's borders, with one wounding a 7-year-old girl. At least 9 ballistic missiles managed to elude Israel's elaborate air defense system and the fire from the allied militaries in the region. Israeli leaders credited an international military coalition with helping thwart the direct Iranian attack involving these hundreds of drones and missiles, called the coordinated response a starting point for a strategic alliance of regional opposition to Tehran. But Israel's war cabinet met without making a decision on the next steps, as a nervous world waited for any sign of further escalation of the former shadow war. Following Iran's missile and drone attacks on Israel, the Israeli Foreign Ministry says one immediate response would be to classify the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, which carried out the attacks, as a terrorist organization. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis has described Tehran's major aerial attacks on Israel as a legitimate response to a suspected Israeli bombing of the Iranian consulate in the Syrian capital of Damascus earlier this month. Israel and Iran accused each other at the UN of being the main threat to peace in the Middle East, each calling on the Security Council to impose sanctions on their sworn enemy. U.S. Deputy Ambassador Robert Wood has strongly condemned Iran's unprecedented attack, and the European Union condemned Iran's direct aerial attack on Israel in the strongest terms. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz has urged restraint by Israel after it successfully repelled Iran's unprecedented drone and missile attacks. And President Emmanuel Macron has said that France would help to do everything to avoid a conflagration in the Middle East after this unprecedented Iranian missile and drone attack on Israel. A spokesman for the Dutch arm of the airline group Air France KLM says it cancelled all flights to and from Tel Aviv until tomorrow. Britain would consider more sanctions against Iran, according to its Foreign Minister David Cameron this morning. And Tehran has called on Western nations to appreciate Iran's restraint towards Israel after it attacked its regional foe in response to the deadly strike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Disagreements have arisen among members of Israel's war cabinet of the scale and timing of this attack on Iran. And the Israeli army says it won't be distracted from its offensive on Gaza after Iran's unprecedented strikes. Schools were set to reopen across Israel today, and Israel did launch dozens of airstrikes on Gaza overnight, as the army said it will not be distracted from the conflict after Iran's attack. The Israeli military renewed warnings this morning for Palestinians in Gaza not to return to the embattled territories north, a day after Gaza hospital officials said 5 people were killed as throngs of displaced residents tried to reach their homes in the war-torn area. Russia has said it was extremely concerned about the escalation of tensions in the Middle East, and it is Iranian Foreign Ministry this morning saying that Iran's Revolutionary Revolutionary Guards had seized the MSC Ares cargo ship because the freighter violated maritime laws. Tehran said it had no doubt that the vessel was linked to Israel. It was Iran's Revolutionary Guards that seized this Portuguese-flagged cargo ship, which has 17 Indians on board. And officials from India may soon be able to meet the crew from the country who are on this ship seized by Iranian troops. 17 of the 25 crew members on the MSC Ares are Indian. The United States has said it will not join any Israeli counterattack on Iran, with President Biden warning Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to think carefully about any escalation. And it is also the Iranian army declaring that its attack was completely successful, which it said was in self-defense. The Biden administration's main message for Israel following Iran's aerial assault comes down to this: stop and think. U.S. officials expect Israel to respond in some fashion to these strikes, but in both public and private ways, they are taking steps they hope will convince Israel to choose a limited response as opposed to an all-out armed counterattack. U.S. officials yesterday sought to strike this delicate balance with Israel after the key U.S. ally was attacked by Iran, staunchly affirming their alliance with the Israelis, while also making it clear the U.S. will not support further military action. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said President Biden doesn't believe that Iran's overnight attacks against Israel need to escalate into a wider war in the Middle East. House Speaker Mike Johnson has said that he will try to advance wartime aid for Israel this week as he attempts the difficult task of winning House approval for a national security package that also includes funding for Ukraine and allies in Asia. President Biden, meanwhile, is set to host Iraq's leader this week for talks that come as tensions across the Middle East have soared over the war in Gaza and Iran's unprecedented weekend attack on Israel in retaliation for an Israeli military strike against an Iranian facility in Syria. World number one golfer Scottie Scheffler defeated Colin Morikawa to win yesterday's 2024 Masters tournament. The win at Augusta National marks his second Masters title, earning him a $3.6 million prize. And last year's champion John Ram, currently number 3 in the world rankings, finished 9 over par and tied for 45th place. Tiger Woods, a 5-time Masters winner, endured a challenging 72 holes, ending the 4 days with the worst score of any tournament in his professional career. Scottie Scheffler birdied his final hole to emerge from a packed leaderboard to grab a one-shot lead over Colin Morikawa after the third round of the Masters, while Tiger Woods endured that worst major round as professional on Saturday. Scottie Scheffler spent more time looking at his feet than any of the white leaderboards at Augusta National, all of them showing that everyone was watching. A Masters champion, again, the undisputed best player of golf today. He prefers to stay in his own little world. Population 1. Nobody is close to him in the game at the moment. Meanwhile, Texas oilman Herbert Hunt has died. He was 95 years old. The oil wildcatter left a massive business and philanthropic footprint in Dallas and Texas. Hunt became one of the world's most prominent oil barons and investors throughout his 7-decade career, following his father's lead along the brothers Nelson Hunt and Lamar Hunt. He's survived by his wife Nancy and 5 children. Maverick Vinales slept away from the pole position and cruised to victory in the MotoGP sprint race at the Grand Prix of the Americas in Austin. The Spaniard, who smashed the lap record in qualifying, built a lead of more than a second in his Aprilia and rode serenely to the line as behind 3 compatriots fought for the other podium places. In a singular moment for American history, the hush money trial of former President Trump begins today with jury selection already underway. In the first criminal trial of a former commander-in-chief and the first of Trump's 4 indictments to go on trial, because Trump is the presumptive nominee for this year's Republican ticket, the trial will also produce the head-spinning split screen of a presidential candidate spending his days in court, and he is said campaigning during the night. Donald Trump becomes the first former president to face a criminal trial today as jury selection begins in Manhattan in a case involving hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels, with the U.S. election looming in less than 7 months as he seeks a return to the White House. His history-making criminal trial starting as we speak. 2 days before the start of the trial, the former president attacked his former attorney, Michael Cohen, who's expected to be a key witness in the case. The actions of Donald Trump and his supporters following his 2020 election loss stopped the U.S. Supreme Court's agenda in the next 2 weeks in cases involving his bid to avoid prosecution for trying to undo his defeat in an attempt by a man indicted in the Capitol attack to escape a charge that Trump also faces. And these two cases assume even greater prominence as Trump campaigns to return to the White House as the Republican candidate challenging Democratic President Joe Biden in the November 5th U.S. elections. And while former President Trump is in his hometown of New York for the start of his criminal trial on charges of falsifying business records, President Biden plans to campaign in his birthplace of Scranton in Battleground, Pennsylvania. His counter-programming itinerary includes 3 days of economy-focused events in Scranton, Pittsburgh, and the Philadelphia area, while his campaign keeps a spotlight on Trump's position on abortion. President Biden appeared to lose ground to former President Trump in a February poll, but now seems to be closing that gap. Less than a day after Iran's attack on Israel and ahead of an imminent response from the Israeli military, both Russia and Iran's foreign ministers have warned of the threat of further escalation. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his Iranian counterpart Hossein Amir-Abdollahian has said that new provocations could lead to dangerous levels of tensions across the Middle East. Ukrainian President Zelensky condemned Iran's drone and missile attack on Israel and said his country needed help from its allies to fend off threats from the air, just as Israel did. Ukrainian President Zelensky has called on Western countries to do better in implementing sanctions to prevent Russian terrorism in Ukraine. And the head of Ukraine's military has warned the battlefield situation in the east of the country has significantly worsened in recent days as fierce battles are ongoing in several villages in the eastern Donbass region. Russia's warned Ukraine has entered a new phase. Drone and missile attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure are now frequent and massive, overwhelming its current air defenses. And Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba reacts to the West's appeal to stop attacking Russian oil infra in a blunt manner during an interview with a local TV channel. Floodwaters in southern Russia, meanwhile, threaten to submerge thousands more homes in the Kurgan region, where the governor predicted a very difficult situation in the coming hours. Floods have also killed 58 people in Tanzania during the last 2 weeks as heavy rains continue in the East African country. A heavy flooding from seasonal rains in Afghanistan has killed at least 33 people and injured 27 others in 3 days. Flash floods have hit the capital of Kabul and several other provinces. 600 houses are either damaged or destroyed, while around 200 livestock have died. Torrential rains triggered landslides in Indonesia's Sulawesi Island, killing 14 people and leaving 3 others missing. And 19 people have been found dead and 2 more are missing after a landslide in central Indonesia. Lawyers for Azerbaijan urged today the top UN court to throw out a case filed by Armenia linked to the long-running dispute over the Nagorno-Karabakh region, arguing that judges do not have jurisdiction. Armenia filed the case at the International Court of Justice in 2021, accusing Azerbaijan of a state-sponsored policy of Armenian hatred that has led to systemic discrimination, mass killings, torture, and other abuse. Around 20,000 people are newly displaced every day in Sudan. These are according to the UN figures that were released this morning to mark 1 year of civil war in the country. A year after this brutal war erupted between rival factions of Sudan security forces, France and Germany are leading an international donor conference in Paris today to raise funds for urgently needed humanitarian aid. Croatia's upcoming parliamentary election, set for this Wednesday, follows a campaign that was marked by heated exchanges between the country's 2 top officials, sparking a political crisis in the Balkan country that belongs to both the European Union and NATO. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the World News on community radio networks. An attacker who fatally knifed 6 people in a mall was shot dead by police in Sydney's beachside suburb of Bondi. As hundreds fled the scene, the assailant was shot by a police officer after he attacked shoppers in the busy Westfield Bondi Junction shopping centre. 5 of the 6 victims killed were women, while 8 people, including a 9-month-old baby, were taken to the hospital with stab wounds. And police at this stage do not believe the attack was terror-related. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said there was no indication indication yet of the man's motive. Australia has some of the world's toughest gun and knife laws, and attacks such as the one this weekend are rare, about this man fatally stabbing the 6 people at a mall in Sydney's beachside suburb of Bundy. We also have a police officer and several bystanders being hailed for running towards danger to confront the attacker who stabbed and killed these 6 people at the suburban Sydney shopping centre. Also, Somali pirates are back on the attack, with piracy around the Horn of Africa rising sharply in recent months and adding to concerns for shipping vessels, government forces and private security already locked in a battle in the Red Sea with the Houthi rebels. We have the Somali pirates that have this morning released a Bangladesh-flagged vessel and its 23-member crew after a ransom was reportedly paid. The MV Abdullah was carrying coal from Mozambique to the United Arab Emirates when it was hijacked off Somalia's coast. And this happened about a month ago. Somali pirates have freed that Bangladesh-flagged cargo vessel and its 23 crew after sackloads of US dollars were airdropped to them in ransom. A series of incidents since then has fueled concerns about a resurgence of Indian Ocean raids by opportunistic pirates. Last month, Indian commandos boarded and recaptured the vessel seized in December. The Maltese-flagged MV Ruin, around 260 nautical miles off the Somalia coast, and all 17 hostages were rescued, and 35 alleged pirates were brought to Mumbai to face prosecution. A Delhi court today extended the judicial custody of Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal until the 23rd of this month in connection with the excise policy case. A special judge overseeing cases involving the CBI and the EDs prolonged Kejriwal custody after his appearance via video conferencing, as the earlier custody period had expired. The Supreme Court sought response from the ED on a plea by Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal challenging his arrest in a money laundering case stemming from the alleged excise policy scam. Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann visited Arvind Kejriwal in the Tihar jail today, raising concerns over Delhi Chief Minister's treatment behind bars. He was accompanied by Aam Aadmi Party Rajya Sabha MP Sandeep Pathak, expressed dismay at the conditions Kejriwal is allegedly facing, likening them to treatment reserved for hardcore criminals. With the general elections 2024 underway, the Election Commission of India is on track for the highest ever seizures of inducements recorded in the 75-year history of the Lok Sabha elections in the country. The enforcement agencies have made a record seizure of over 4,650 crore rupees in ECI's fight against money power, even before the first phase of polling for the 18th Lok Sabha elections commences on Friday. Prime Minister Modi today took a dig at Rahul Gandhi for abandoning his family seat in Uttar Pradesh and making his new base in Kerala. A big leader of Congress has found it difficult to save the respect of his family seat in Uttar Pradesh and has made his new base in Kerala, said Prime Minister Modi at a rally in Palakkad. Amethi in Uttar Pradesh was the Gandhi family stronghold in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections when Rahul Gandhi was defeated by BJP's Smriti Irani. The Mumbai crime branch has taken charge of the investigation into the firing incident outside Salman Khan's Bandra residence, marking a significant development following the attack involving 2 unidentified bikers. More than 10 teams have been deployed by the crime branch to look into that matter. And we do have shots that were fired by these 2 unidentified bike-borne men at Salman Khan's residence, the Galaxy Apartments in Bandra, early yesterday morning, and 4 empty shells and a live bullet were found out there. Agencies are probing if Lawrence Bishnoi's gang is linked to this incident. Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL campaign that began in cheerfulness has melted into chaos, and the bowlers require drastic transformation in mindset against the Sunrisers Hyderabad for them to register an elusive win today. The Royal Challengers have players of repute and elite coaches with lofty pedigree, but none of their plans have worked so far, evidenced by the team's 10th place in the standings with the solitary win from 6 matches. Amir Sarfraz Tamba, the man who allegedly killed Indian prisoner Sarabjit Singh in the Kot Lakhpat prison in 2013, was critically injured in an attack yesterday. Media reports claim that the victim was killed in the attack, but Lahore SSP operations Sayyid Ali Raza has confirmed that the victim was alive but critically injured. He was at his residence in Lahore's Islampura area when two masked armed men forcefully entered his home and fired multiple shots. And they fled the scene, leaving the victim in a pool of blood. He was rushed to a local hospital where he was being treated, according to his younger brother. He was one of the two inmates who had attacked Sarabjit Singh in Lahore's Kot Lakhpat prison, where the Indian was serving a death sentence after being convicted of espionage. New Zealand's cricket team has arrived in Islamabad ahead of a 5-match T20I series against the Green Shirts. The Pakistan Cricket Board welcomed the Black Caps to the country, and Pakistan hosts New Zealand for 5 T20Is starting in Rawalpindi this Thursday, as both teams tune up for June's T20 World Cup in the United States and the West Indies. Pakistan's head coach for the side's upcoming 5-match 2020 international series against New Zealand, Azhar Mahmood, will join the team's camp today. Lightning and heavy rains have killed at least 36 people, mostly farmers, across Pakistan in the last 3 days, as authorities in the country's southwest have declared a state of emergency. Another 4 died in rain-related incidents in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, while the Balochistan government imposed an urban flood emergency in Quetta. Continuous heavy rains accompanied by thunderstorms lashing several parts of Pakistan in the last few days. PTI leader Omar Ayub has said that his party was in contact with other political forces to shore up the 6-party opposition alliance to strengthen its bid to oust the incumbent government led by the PMLN. Addressing a press conference in Quetta, he said that political parties, labor organizations, and other segments of society would also be contacted in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you in as far as the world news is concerned for today on this tax day. It is the 15th of April. I do have your financial news, and that is coming up for you in just a minute. If you all would stay here with us, we'll get you all the information that you need to take on the day today. We are getting the week started for you. And as I mentioned, it is a lovely Monday morning, and it is the 15th of April, and it is tax day for all of you that like to procrastinate and wait till the last day. Well, you'll better get something going today, or at least file for an extension. We'll talk more about that and all the financial news that you need to know, all coming up for you. Stay with us right here on Community Radio Networks. All right, let's get you the financial news that I was talking about a minute ago. And that is right here on Community Radio Networks. And of course, we start it always with your foreign currency exchange rates. We have the Indian rupee at 83.49. Also, we have the Pakistani rupee at 277.95. Bangladeshi taka at 109.70. The Sri Lankan rupee at 298.95. The Nepalese rupee is at 133.64. The British pound at 0.80. The British pound has rebounded this morning from its biggest weekly fall against the dollar since July, bouncing from a 5-month low hit on Friday as markets prepare for a data-heavy week that could influence the Bank of England's policy in the coming months. Meanwhile, the euro is at 0.94, Canadian dollar 1.37, the Australian dollar 1.55, Mexican peso 16.66, Chinese yuan 7.24, Japanese yen 154.34, Russian ruble 92.88, and Thai baht 36.78, Turkish lira 32.40. And for the U.S. equity futures moving higher today, while oil prices slipped and the dollar gave back recent gains against its global peers as investors look to Israel's formal response to an unprecedented missile attack from Iran. Over the weekend, the dollar surged to a fresh 5-month high against its global peers as investors scrambled for safe haven assets and braced for a week of spiking market volatility amid concerns about the prospect of a wider military conflict in the Middle East triggered by Tehran's attack. And for the first time since 2019, April 15th, today is tax day, and the deadline to file federal income tax returns and extensions to the IRS for most of the country. Annual tax adjustments, including new tax brackets and increased standard deduction and higher limits to 401k plans, are lowering the income taxes and increasing tax refunds for many Americans this year. The IRS has said it has received more than 100 million tax returns, with tens of millions more expected to be filed as the tax deadline approaches. And the IRS estimates 19 million taxpayers will file for an automatic extension. April 15th, of course, has been the traditional tax filing deadline since 1954, with exceptions for when the date falls on the weekend. Due to the pandemic, the Treasury Department and the IRS delayed the deadline in both 20 and 21, and the calendar pushed the 22 and 23 due dates also. But today is tax day. Meanwhile, billionaire Mark Cuban says he's happy to pay his fair share of taxes. Unlike one former president, he said, I pay what I owe, and I am transferring to the IRS all the money that is owed to me, and that's $288 million. This country has done so much for me. I'm proud to pay my taxes every single year. U.S. stock futures have risen today as worries over the fallout from Iran's attack on Israel eased, following focus to return to earnings season and inflation risks to rate cut hopes. S&P 500 futures added 0.4%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average moved up roughly 0.3% after ending the week with sharp losses, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq 100 led gains with the futures up 0.5%. Stocks have slid over the past week as fears sticky inflation may prevent the Federal Reserve from cutting interest rates have gripped the markets. Oil prices drifting lower today, with the market downplaying the risk of broader regional conflagration after Iran's weekend attack on Israel. Brent futures for June delivery fell 70 cents, or about 8%, to 89.75 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate futures for May delivery were down 74 cents, or about 0.9%, at 84.92. Goldman Sachs profit rose 28% in the first quarter, buoyed by recovery in underwriting and deal-making that boosted its investment banking unit. JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley started coverage on Reddit with equivalent to hold ratings as they wait for clarity on the social media company's user growth, while staying bullish on ad revenue growth and artificial intelligence initiative. Shares of Reddit up 0.88% at 42.64 in pre-market trading this morning. Profits at Goldman Sachs risen 28% in the first quarter as investment banking revenues surge, giving CEO David Solomon some needed momentum at the start of 2024. Net income was $4.1 billion, beating analysts' expectations. M&T Bank posted a 25% drop in first quarter profit today as higher deposit costs reduced its interest income, and a turmoil in the commercial real estate industry prompted it to set aside more rainy day funds. Salesforce Inc.'s Mark Benioff is pursuing what would be one of the company's biggest ever deals after fending off activist investors critical of his reliance on acquisitions. President Biden is going after light bulbs in an effort to make them more efficient. The Biden administration did so by finalizing new light bulb efficiency rules. First introduced in 2022, will more than double the required lumens for light bulbs from 45 lumens per watt to more than 120 lumens per watt. And a lumen is the unit of measurement for light intensity. The Transportation Security Administration says agents found fewer guns at airport checkpoints in the first 3 months of the year than in the same period last year, but they are still finding them every day. The TSA says agents across America found 1,503 guns at checkpoints through the end of March, which is down from 1,508 the same period last year, and urging people who may fly with a gun to learn the rules before leaving for the airport. Guns must be secured in the passenger's checked baggage, packed, unloaded, locked in a hard-sided case, and declared to the airline when checking the bag at the ticket counter. Tesla Inc. will slash global headcount by more than 10%, wrote Elon Musk in an email to staff as the car maker grapples with the slowdown in electric vehicle demand. If the cuts apply company-wide, the dismissal would amount to more than 14,000 employees. Jerry Dean McClain first bet on former President Trump's Truth Social 2 years ago, buying into Trump company's planned merger partner Digital World acquisition at $90 a share. And over time, as the price changed, he kept buying, amassing hundreds of shares for $25,000, pretty much his whole nest egg. That nest egg has lost about half its value in the past 2 weeks, as Trump Media and Technology Group's share price has dropped from $66 after its public debut last month to $32. And we do have Disney updating its theme park policies for guests with disabilities as it tries to crack down on those misusing the program. The updates address who can use disability access services, among other changes. Guests attempting to misuse the program will receive a lifetime ban. Enraged Billy Joel fans put network Big Shots on blast last night after a televised concert was cut off in the middle of his best-known song. Viewers who had been waiting for the longest time for the CBS broadcast of his 100th concert of his residency at New York's Madison Square Garden had to wait just a little longer when it was delayed by the network's extended coverage of golf's Masters tournament. And then towards the end of the show, as he performed a rousing version of Piano Man, with the audience and fans at home singing along, viewers in many cities saw their screens go to black, followed by the news that said at least one station offered both an apology and an explanation. Federal authorities are sounding the alarm about counterfeit Botox that has left at least 6 people sick with botulism-like illness. People in at least 2 states have been hospitalized after receiving botulinum toxin cosmetic injections, commonly known as Botox, that were administered in non-medical settings such as homes or cosmetic spas. The CDC is now coordinating a multi-state outbreak investigation, collaborating with the Food and Drug Administration and multiple health departments to determine what exactly is going on. And those 2 states from which this report comes are Illinois and Tennessee. If in the last 5 years you found yourself picking up a bag of fruit or some packaged meat from Walmart, you may be entitled to a settlement payment. Walmart has agreed in principle to pay back a fraction of what those who purchased either of the products spent after a lawsuit claimed that it inflated its prices of weighted goods at the checkout. Miner Piedmont Lithium said it had received a long-delayed permit for starting the construction of its lithium mine from North Carolina. Regulators in a further boost to the supplies of the electric vehicle battery component in the United States. And the Biden administration has reached an agreement to provide up to $6.4 billion in direct funding for Samsung Electronics to develop a computer chip manufacturing and research cluster in Texas. The funding that was announced this morning by the Commerce Department is part of a total investment in the cluster that, with private money, is expected to exceed $40 billion. The government support comes from CHIPS and Science Act, while President Biden signed into law in 2022 with the goal of reviving the production of advanced computer chips domestically. And we do have Samsung's cluster in Taylor, Texas, that would include 2 factories that would make 4 and 2 nanometer chips. Also, there would be a factory dedicated to research and development, as well as a facility for the packaging that surrounds chip components and expected to be operational in 2026, with the second being operational in 2027. This cluster in Taylor, Texas. A new study identifies states with the worst mental health care for young people, and Texas ranked in the top 10. Mental health treatment specialists analyzed data from the Mental Health America on factors such as youth with at least one major depressive episode, students identifying with emotional disturbance, and students with a substance disorder. Oregon tops the list as the state with the worst mental health care for young people. Virginia and Nebraska in second and third place, respectively, and Texas comes in 6th. Apple Inc.'s iPhone shipments slid a worse than projected 10% in the March quarter, reflecting flagging sales in China despite a broader smartphone industry rebound. Apple has recently been criticized for what it calls a bug in its predictive text, where some users who type Jerusalem on their device are prompted to use a Palestinian flag emoji. The predictive text also attempts to complete your sentences, either using words that might make sense or emojis that can replace the word altogether. British Petroleum has cut over a tenth of the workforce in its electric vehicle charging business and pulled it out of several markets after a bet on rapid growth in commercial EV fleets didn't pay off. Germany's flagship airline Lufthansa temporarily suspending several flights to cities in the Middle East amid wider disruption unleashed by Iran's attack on Israel. The measure affects regular flights to and from Tel Aviv in Israel, to Erbil in Iraq, and Amman in Jordan. The European Union disbursed 6.3 billion euros, that's $6.7 billion, to Poland as part of the 27-nation bloc's post-pandemic recovery fund, the biggest single transfer ever to the country. Poland's former National Conservative government, voted out of power in October, made changes to the judiciary, which the European Union said violated democratic checks and balances, and so had decided to block the money. ChatGPT creator OpenAI opened a new office in Tokyo today, the first Asian outpost for the groundbreaking tech company as it aims to ramp up its global expansion. We do have BSE Sensex and the Nifty 50. The Indian benchmark equity indices plunging in trade today, led by global cues. The BSE Sensex plunged over 800 points, and the Nifty 50 went below the 22,300 level. With healthy passenger traffic growth and airline maintained price discipline, the Indian airline industry is expected to massively cut its net loss to 30 to 40 billion rupees in the financial year 24 and 25. Indian Mortgage Guarantee Corporation today announced its partnership with Public Sector Bank of India to offer innovative mortgage guarantee-backed home loan products, and this collaboration focuses on salaried and self-employed home loan customers in the affordable housing segment. In a significant move to encourage voter participation and engagement in the electoral process, the Chief Electoral Officer of Delhi announced the implementation of the Election Commission of India order, and this order grants a paid holiday to all eligible employees on the polling day in the National Capital Territory of Delhi. To carry out the annual pre-monsoon maintenance work on both its runways, the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport at Mumbai will remain shut to flight movements for 6 hours on the 9th of May to carry out the monsoon contingency plan. The primary runway and the secondary runway will remain temporarily non-operational from 11 to 5. Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb has arrived in Washington today with his team to participate in the IMF and World Bank spring meetings and initiate talks on a new financial package ranging from $6 billion to $8 billion for Pakistan. The IMF ministerial meetings and events are scheduled from the 17th to the 19th of April, with additional activities planned from today. The Kalari Baghara Feeder Upper Lining Project, an important component of the Karachi Greater Bulk Water Supply Scheme project, is yet to start its development after being approved in July of 2023 by the Executive Committee of the National Economic Council. The project itself is facing delays and now slated for completion in 2025. Signs suggest that the Pakistan Cricket Board chairman Mohsin Naqvi is hesitant to release payments owed to Mohammad Hafiz for his stint as former team director of the national side, as well as payments due to domestic cricketers who participated in various tournaments last year. This hesitation appears to stem from the fact that all these activities were conducted under the supervision of Mohsin's predecessor, Zaka Ashraf. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news for you today on this tax day, getting you ready here for those taxes, as well as getting you all this information you need to take on the day. We have the final segment of our program, and that is coming up for you in just a bit. If you all would just stay with us, we'll get you and in that we will make your social calendar, as well as get you all the various stories that we have chosen for you from the annals of history that happened on today's date. And of course, today's date is the 15th of April. It is tax day today. I'll update you on the weather also. We are waking up to plenty of cloud cover today, high humidity and very mild temperatures for this time of the year. Readings have only fallen into the upper 60s, and we'll see some breaks in the clouds later today and a few showers also, with afternoon highs in the low 80s. South winds gusting to 30 miles per hour. By late afternoon today, scattered severe storms will break out well to the west of Dallas-Fort Worth and slide towards our direction. We will have a very strong cap in the place, so as these storms approach by mid to late evening, they will weaken significantly. We may see some rain showers continuing through early Tuesday morning, that's tomorrow morning, and where the lows will be mild again into the upper 60s. Let's get you some stories here from the Annals of History that happened on today's date, the 15th of April. At 7:22 a.m. that day, in the year 1865, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, dies from that bullet wound that inflicted the night before by John Wilkes Booth, an actor and Confederate sympathizer. The President's death came only 6 days after Confederate General Robert E. Lee had surrendered his massive army at the Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the American Civil War. And he died on today's date at 7:22 a.m. At 2:20 a.m. on the 15th of April in 1912, the British ocean liner, the Titanic, sinks into the North Atlantic Ocean, about 400 miles south of Newfoundland, and that, of course, in Canada. We do all know the story of the Titanic, but it was on today's date that we recommemorate that tragedy, and we have loved that movie that we saw recently just so much. The massive ship, which carried 2,200 passengers and crew, that struck an iceberg 2.5 hours before this time that I just reported. The Titanic, one of the largest and most luxurious ocean liners ever built, that departed from Southampton in England on its maiden voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. And the Titanic was designed by an Irish shipbuilder and built in Belfast. Thought to be the world's fastest ship. Announcements of details of this tragedy led to outrage on both sides of the Atlantic, and in the disaster's aftermath, the first International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea was held in the year 1913, which was the next year. Rules were adopted requiring that every ship have lifeboat space for each person on board and that lifeboat drills be held. It was recently in 1985 that a joint U.S. and French expedition located the wreck of the Titanic lying on the ocean floor at a depth of about 13,000 feet. The ship was explored by manned and unmanned submersibles, which shed new light on the details of its sinking. That sinking that happened on today's date at 2:20 a.m. in the year 1912, the British ocean liner Titanic that sank into the North Atlantic Ocean 400 miles south of Newfoundland in Canada. More than 1,500 people went down in the sinking ship or froze to death in the icy North Atlantic waters, and most of the 700 or so survivors were women and children.
Love was when I loved you, one true time I hold you, in my life will always go near, far, wherever you are. I believe that the heart does go on.
On the 15th of April in 1947, Jackie Robinson, at the age of 28, becomes the first African American player in Major League Baseball's modern era when he steps into Ebbets Field in Brooklyn to compete for the Brooklyn Dodgers. He broke the color barrier in a sport that had been segregated for more than 50 years. Exactly 50 years later, in 1997, his groundbreaking career was honored and his uniform number 42 was retired from Major League Baseball by Commissioner Bud Selig in a ceremony attended by over 50,000 fans at New York City's Shea Stadium. Robinson's was the first ever number retired by all teams in the league. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a story from the annals of history when Jackie Robinson becomes the first American player in Major League Baseball on the 15th of April in 1947. After retiring from baseball, he became a businessman and civil rights activist. Died in 1972 at the age of 53. 4 months after leading a successful revolution in Cuba, Fidel Castro visits the United States, and this visit was marked by tensions between Castro and the American government. It was in 1959 on today's date. Earlier that year, his revolutionary forces overthrew the Cuban dictator Batista. From the beginning of the new regime in Cuba, U.S. officials worried about the bearded revolutionary. Castro's anti-American rhetoric, his stated plans to nationalize foreign properties in Cuba, and his association with a number of suspected leftists, including his second-in-command, Che Guevara, prompted American diplomats to keep a wary eye on him, and though he worried politicians, American reporters adored him. His tales of the day spent fighting a guerrilla war in Cuba, the fatigues and combat boots he favored, and his bushy beard cut a striking figure. In April of 1959, Castro accepted an invitation from the American Society of Newspaper Editors to visit the United States, and the trip got off to an inauspicious start when it became clear that President Eisenhower had no intention of meeting with Castro. Instead, he went to the golf course to avoid any chance meeting with Castro. Castro gave a talk to the Council on Foreign Affairs, a New York-based group of private citizens and former government officials interested in U.S. international relations. Was confrontational during the session, indicating that Cuba would not beg the United States for economic assistance. Relations between the U.S. and Castro deteriorated rapidly following this visit. On today's date in 1959, and in less than a year, President Eisenhower ordered the CIA to begin arming and training a group of Cuban exiles to attack Cuba. The disastrous attack that is known as the Bay of Pigs invasion, eventually carried out during the Kennedy administration, and the heated Cold War animosity between America and Cuba would last for over 50 years. From today's date, the 15th of April in 1959, that visit to the United States. And in 1997, on today's date, that 50th anniversary of his Major League Baseball game, the league that retires Jackie Robinson's number 42, whose breaking of the color barrier 50 years earlier on today's date that we just talked about was a major moment in the history of racial integration in the U.S. is the only player in MLB history to have his number retired across all teams, a sign of the reverence with which he regarded decades after he led the charge to integrate the major leagues. And then Pol Pot, the architect of Cambodia's killing fields, dies of apparent natural causes while serving a life sentence imposed against him by his own Khmer Rouge. The Khmer Rouge, organized by him in the Cambodian jungle in the 1960s, advocated a radical communist revolution that would wipe out Western influence in Cambodia and set up a solely agrarian society. In 1970, aided by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops, Khmer Rouge guerrillas began a large-scale insurgency against Cambodian government forces, soon gaining control of nearly a third of the country. And the person who started it, Pol Pot, the architect of Cambodia's killing fields, dies of natural causes during this life sentence imposed against him by his own Khmer Rouge on today's date in the year 1998. On the 15th of April in 2013, 2 bombs go off near the finish line of the Boston Marathon. And you all may remember this recently happened in the year 2013. 2013, killing 3 spectators and wounding more than 260 other people in attendance. 4 days later, after an intense manhunt that shut down the Boston area, police captured one of the bombing suspects, 19-year-old Zokhar Sarnev. His older brother and fellow suspect, 26-year-old Tamerlan Sarnev, died following a shootout with law enforcement earlier that same day. The 117th Boston Marathon that began in the morning from Hopkinton, Massachusetts, with some 23,000 participants on today's date in 2013, and at around 2:49 that afternoon, with more than 5,700 runners still in the race, 2 pressure cooker bombs hidden in the backpacks exploded within seconds of each other near the finish line along Boylston Street. 3 people died, a 23-year-old woman, a 29-year-old woman, and an 8-year-old boy. Among the scores of others who were injured, more than a dozen people required amputations. And at the time of the bombing, Zokhar Sarnev was a sophomore at the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth, while Tamerlan, his brother, was a community college dropout and former amateur boxer with a wife and child. Investigators believe the Sarnevs were motivated by extremist Islamic beliefs, but planned and carried out the bombings on their own and were not connected to any terrorist organizations. The brothers allegedly used the internet to learn how to build explosives. He pleaded not guilty to the 30 federal charges against him, including the use of a weapon of mass destruction. He went on trial in 2015 and was found guilty on all 30 counts, sentenced to death, but appealed the decision. Currently, he's being held at a supermax prison in Colorado. The 2 bombs that went off near the finish line of the Boston Marathon on today's date in 2013. And, of course, the Boston Marathon is going to be held today also, and we'll update you on that during our show tomorrow. I have huge thanks going out to the supporters and well-wishers of community radio networks. I have big thanks going out to Discount Power, and you can find out more information by going to discountpowertx.com. We have big thanks going out to HoustonEB5.com and Mr. Pradeep Kumar there to help you with his next projects. The Ahluwalia Law Offices, Attorney Pallavi Ahluwalia can help you with all your legal needs. AhluwaliaLaw.com. The Wyndham Hotel in Irving has beautiful banquet halls for your next event. Digital X-Force with Lalita Ahluwalia heading it in South Lake. KinzaLaw.com. Attorney Kimberly Kinza can handle your immigration needs. And big thanks going out to the Michaelachi restaurant, to Ruchi Palace, as well as Sri Vimal, Vimal's Venue, Eggholic, Mystic Mandala, and Flash Brush Productions. The Shruti Sangeet Academy, Indian classical vocal lessons can be achieved out there by certified classical vocalist and talk show host Shanta Mishra. You can explore the soul of Indian music. They offer comprehensive curriculum with personalized instruction, immersion in bhajans, shlokas, and folk music. They can do private and group lessons on weekends in East Plano, where you can learn classical ragas, master vocal techniques, embrace rhythm and tal, experience Indian culture like never before. I'm going to give you a telephone number to call Shanta Mishra at 612-562-4432. Shanta Mishra 10@gmail.com. We do have Navaratri going on, and there will be Ram Nami and Sri Ram Mandir anniversary celebrations happening on the 16th of this month, which is tomorrow. And a lot of temples around town celebrating Ram Nami tomorrow. It is Color Me Safe Foundation, a family crisis management organization serving the greater Dallas area, that has launched 2 new educational initiatives. One is called Ask Auntie, and the other is Sathi Support Group. Through discussion on topics such as generational and cultural gaps, cultural identity, mental health, bullying, and many more, these programs seek to empower South Asian children and families with the tools and understanding to overcome these shared challenges in a very supportive and non-judgmental space. And how to attend these, you can contact colormesafefoundation.org. This month is being celebrated as Diversity Month. You can join the Dallas Symphony Orchestra for a special pre-concert event celebrating the importance of diversity, inclusion, equity, and unity. The Chamber is pleased to partner with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra to promote Celebrate Diversity Night this Friday from 6 to 7 at the Meyerson Symphony Center. And this pre-concert event features performances with light snacks and drinks. It is free for you to attend. And following the Celebrate Diversity Night, the Dallas Symphony Orchestra featuring a concert performance by Troupe Vertigo. All this at the Meyerson Symphony Center this Friday. And then on Saturday from noon till 6, there's an Eid picnic that is happening at the Travick Pavilion in Grapevine. For more information, please call Muhammad Hamid at 469-544-4118. This is being brought to you by the Hyderabad Society of North Texas. And then on Saturday, coming Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, is the Pratham Dallas Fort Worth Gala, and we're excited to announce that limited individual tickets are available. It is this Saturday at the Omni Frisco Hotel, an evening that ignites minds, touches hearts, and empowers futures. And during the evening, you'll be mesmerized by Vidya Vox's captivating voice and vibrant electronic soundscapes as she presents a special musical performance that blends tradition and innovation. And then our keynote speaker is Krish Dhanam, that captivating speaker mentored by the legendary Zig Ziglar. We have guests encouraged to incorporate a splash of Pratham yellow into their attire. They'll be hosting a best dressed contest during the reception, as well as a social media likes contest. Over the course of the evening, you'll indulge in a decadent meal crafted by our finest chefs and let the conversations flow with like-minded individuals passionate about creating change. So your presence at the Pratham Dallas Fort Worth Gala symbolizes a child supported with the opportunities needed to realize their dreams, secure job prospects, and embrace a brighter future illuminated by the power of learning. So please join the Pratham Dallas Fort Worth Gala this Saturday. Also on Sunday, the India Association of North Texas is excited to share that they'll host a fun meet for the community's seniors this Sunday at the Russell Creek Park from 10 to 1. It is on McDermott Road in Plano. There'll be yoga, bingo, karaoke, live entertainment, and plenty more this Sunday from 10 to 1. Also this Sunday, MTV Dream USA, in association with the Grand Center, is presenting Miss South Asia World 2024 with celebrity guest Pooja Batra, the Bollywood actress, in attendance at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the Grand Center in Plano. Also on Sunday at 6:30 in the evening, Bismil Ki Mehfil happening at the Sambuca 360 on Bishop Road in the shops at Legacy. Sunday evening from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. World Meditation Hour, where we focus on sending thoughts of peace and healing for the whole world. This is being organized by the Brahma Kumaris, and for Zoom details and to register, you can go on to bkrymeditation.us. EarthX 2024 Congress of Conferences from the 22nd to the 26th of this month at the Hilton Anatole. And we have Jeet Ka Safar with AMAX. AMAX in association with the National Cricket League, the champions 2009 T20 World Cup cricket team. They are going to be here in Dallas on the 26th of this month. And over 2 days, the 26th and 27th, there will be 3 shows of Neetu Chandra as Umrao Jan based on the novel written by Mirza Hadi Ruswa, a musical style play in the Broadway style. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com. It's at the Dallas Music Hall, 26th and 27th of this month. The Festival of Joy on Saturday the 27th at the Clyde Warren Park. And the Festival of India by the Dallas Indian Lions Club. And that's the 39th annual celebration on Sunday, the 28th of April. We also do have the Indian Idol bringing their Intense tour on Friday, the 10th of May. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be at the Grand Center in Dallas, the 10th of May. And while we are talking about the month of May, let me quickly give you some more dates. 12th of May, Unforgettable 90s with Kumar Shanu and Sadhana Sargam. Junoon Show on the 19th of May at the Raleigh Underground. And then we do have the Holistic Festival that is happening in June, Saturday and Sunday, 2-day festival at the Plano Nature and Retreat Center by Mystic Mandala. And you can call Vijay for more information, 972-750-1419. Badshah's Pagal Tour coming to the Curtis Culwell Center on Friday, the 14th of June. And Shreya Ghoshal will be at the Curtis Culwell Center on Sunday, the 16th of June. Nan's Vision is bringing a glamorous night with Shilpa Shetty on the 29th of June. Please mark all these on these dates on your calendar, and then I will get more details as we get closer to them. That's our show for today. For those of you who'd like to contact me directly, my number is 214-675-1754. This is Community Radio Networks.